Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is October 14th, 2025. This is the Daily AI Show live. And with you today is Andy, and I'm Brian. We might have Karl popping in here in the door in a couple minutes. What we want to talk about today is we're going to cover some news to begin with. There's some big ones coming out of the AI news today in the last day or so. So we'll cover some of those hot topics. But then we're going to talk about a tool that we've known about and used for, well, honestly, years. It's crazy to say that in AI, but it quite literally has been years. In fact, when I looked at Poe, which is the tool we want to talk about, my last search that I had done in there, previous to when I was researching for this show, was like 2023. So I had used it quite a bit. And then, you go off and you use other tools. And honestly, if I'm being honest, I probably left Poe for dead a little bit, but they're not. They're actually really, really great. And Andy and I are going to show you why we think they're actually, actually a pretty great website or app on your phone, as a lot of people are going to use it. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about just the rapid pace of evolving tech within AI, but specifically when it comes down to how do you train people to this? How do you stay up to date? Even if you went into college 3 years ago and they had abandoned you trying to be a coder, they might have said everybody needs to be a prompt engineer. And then by the time you got out of college, they might be saying everybody needs to be able to build agents. And before you graduated, they might have a new thing that you need to do. And the reality is, a lot of universities, a lot of your standard educational places aren't able to adapt that fast because it's adapting fast. We talk about it 5 days a week. So we'll talk a little bit about what people can do about that. How do you stay, abreast of what's going on? How can companies stay on top of this? Because it always feels a little bit like, shifting sands underneath your feet. It's kind of tough to just kind of get started. So that's sort of what we got on the docket for today. But let's start off with a couple of news stories. And Andy, I'm going to bring up one really quick because I've literally had this on my list. And even Beth posted about it 2 days ago, 3 days ago. And I was like, I've got to remember to bring this up. So this is Nick Dobos posted this on X, but it's not the first place I saw it, which was that there was this story about the Palisade fires. And I was going to mention this last week, so it's a few days old at this point, but it's the first story that I remember where the officials basically used ChatGPT, threads and image creation inside of OpenAI's ChatGPT in order to build a case around this guy. And it, all signs point towards this guy that was arrested was living in Florida. He's living in Florida now, but was out in California, was creating images. And in fact, you can even see him here. I'll pull him up on the screen really quick for folks. Not a sort of a quick story here, but let's just bring this up. Show on screen. Here we go. So kind of small on the screen here, but you can actually see that there are multiple images that he created with the image generator to depicting basically wildland fires or fires in and around cities and things like that. And there was also ChatGPT threads where he had talked about, could you get in trouble if a cigarette, I think, ash started a fire and these kind of things. And then when they put that together with other evidence, there was enough there to actually arrest this gentleman. And it very much looks like he intentionally it wasn't the Palisade fire. I think there was an initial fire. I don't have it right in front of me. That then led to the secondary fire. So pretty interesting, but also the bigger news here from the AI side, right, Andy, is that, they were able to obtain and then look at that history and then see a pretty compelling case there for the fact that he was premeditated, as far as doing this act of arson. So I'm just curious, what you think, number one, about that, Andy, but number two, what does this say? Is this great? Is this great for society that we were able to go back and look at this OpenAI, and they had to give up this thread, and it actually is going to, allegedly put the right person in jail for something that caused death and, billions in destruction? Or is this something people should be worried about that, law enforcement or otherwise can dip into your, what you feel is maybe private conversations you're having with these LLMs?
Yeah, I've never assumed that my text communications or voice communications with any of the models is a private conversation, in the sense that it's going to be encrypted and not available to anyone other than myself. I've always known that, and I've never put any restrictions on use of this for model training or anything like that. So I just think it's an indication of naivete that someone would be speaking to ChatGPT about illegal activities that they
Hmm.
plan to do, or circling around the idea of doing something illegal.
Sure.
That's not going to be protected in any way. So I think it's good that we have access to that history. You should notice that ChatGPT and most others, they keep a full history of all your conversations, and you can pull them back up, and even ask follow up questions in that particular thread. So
Sure.
don't do bad things is the lesson in this one, I think.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, let's move on. What do you got for your first news story?
Yeah, I want to talk about news here in the last few days about AI model alignment. And this is the idea of trying to make sure that AIs don't go off the rails and do things that are deceptive or you know uh, violating human interests. So Anthropic has been a leader in pursuing aligned AI, and they argue that their models are the most aligned of all. And they did a research effort with the UK AI Security Institute and the Alan Turing Institute, and they showed that by just putting 250 documents out there on the web that could be ingested into training data, just at that level, a very small number of documents, 250, was enough to create backdoors and basically corrupt or jailbreak models.
Mm.
And what's interesting about this is that it's such a small part of it. So you could kind of secretly hide, a number of documents in different locations. And all you have to do is get to this critical mass of 250 documents. And what they found was if you put in fewer than 250, then it didn't work. But if you did more, it didn't, make it more likely. It was
Hmm.
just a threshold number, a very small number of documents. So even while these kinds of tests are kind of illustrating that it's relatively low risk out there, it underscores how just a minimal amount of data contamination could silently alter a model's behavior. And
Hmm.
that kind of raises the point that ultimately alignment is going to be achieved not only by creating prompts and rules and approaches within the system training that is done, but also there's going to have to be curation of the data that actually goes in to train the models, because hoovering up everything out on the internet exposes those models to this poisoning, as it's called.
Yeah, I do find
Oh,
that really
yeah.
fascinating. Go ahead.
Another thing that just came up, and I just read this morning, is that Stanford researchers uh, have demonstrated that a wide range of models, and they use Llama and Quinn models in their particular research, but it wasn't model specific. Those models lie when they're put into competitions.
Hmm.
So if there are if there's a high value perceived by the model to achieving a result, they'll lie. And one of the ways that they'll lie is in political speech. Like if they're being taught to generate a political campaign ad, for example, and they know they're in competition with other models to do that, then they go out to the edge of the envelope, including lying, changing numbers, and creating really misrepresentation uh, sentences in their campaign data. So again, this is a really tough area to work in, but there's teams at every major model developer who are working on trying to figure out how to stop those kinds of behaviors that are so human like, right? Humans will lie. And so yes, models will lie as well, and we're trying to figure out how to stop them from it.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me when you have the debate about what we're willing or not willing to accept from AI models that are mimicking what usually at a lower threshold or percentage than humans will do it anyway. It kind of goes back to the idea of, what's the threshold for deaths from a self-driving Waymo car? Well, zero, right? Like the threshold is zero. There's no deaths are okay. But if you were to look at the percentages of all Waymo cars, yes, geo-fenced and in certain situations, not just totally out in the wild of all human drivers, the numbers are very, very good, right? As far as like, being better than human drivers and things like that. But the answer is still like, well, there's no tolerance. There's no deaths that are okay. So we have different standards that we'll put on these models than what we're willing to accept as humans, which is interesting because the answer to that is like, well, yes, of course, humans are flawed.
Yeah.
And you go, well, the technology
insurance companies know that a brand new 18-year-old driver is a death trap for some other people out there.
Yeah.
And they're, charging them to, provide risk coverage for that particular eventuality. So we have a high level of tolerance for novices, that are human, but we have a low level of tolerance for the novice area of AI application in the real world.
That's a good way of putting it. As a parent who I have a daughter that's 20-ish days away from having her permit. I feel that. I feel both the insurance side of it, and I haven't really looked into that because I don't want to. I don't want to know what they're going to charge me. I just know it's not good. But you're right. They definitely do that. Okay, let's move on. One of the ones I wanted to share is, hey, morning, Cisco. He just dropped in the call. Morning to Delma and Greg as well in the chat. I wanted to bring up this story. I just saw this one come up. And Indy, you're probably better at this than I am. Sorry, I know you just took a sip there. But is it Anduril? Is that?
Yeah. Anduril.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I was like, am I saying that right? So, you may or may not be familiar, not you, Andy, but I mean, the general audience here might not be familiar with this company. You see quite a bit. What's the founder's name? Palmer Luckey.
Who was the founder of Oculus that was sold to
Meta that's right.
for their VR system. So he made billions of dollars that way. And now he's making billions more with a military device AI company that's
and they've
doesn't
built
get mentioned as often as Palantir, but Palantir's out there in AI for military and defense. And Anduril is the sort of the weapons on the ground kind of developer out there using AI.
And he's an interesting fellow. If you get a chance, go look at some YouTube videos or CNBC or other, whatever one you want for interviews with him. Kind of the Hawaiian shirt, flip flops, CEO, founder type personality. So interesting guy. Juxtaposed with the seriousness of the tools that they're building. And this one just came out in the news. You can see here in the bottom 10/13, which is just yesterday. So this is new news, as you will. Anduril's Eagle Eye puts mission command and AI directly into the warfighter's helmet. And they have this sort of image at the top. It's the only image they have as far as their press release about, I guess, this sort of heads-up display. It looks like we've got some maybe AI-enhanced glasses, hard to tell. But then we also apparently have several cameras, I'm going to guess, at the top here. Now, those cameras could be heat-related or heat signatures or otherwise. But just to give you a quick overview, Anduril today unveiled Eagle Eye, an independently researched and developed modular AI-powered family of systems that unifies command and control, digital vision, and survivability within a single adaptive architecture. Eagle Eye is a consequential step towards realizing Anduril's vision of turning every warrior into a connected node on the battlefield. It consolidates mission planning, perception, and control of unmanned assets into a lightweight system that reduces weight and cognitive load while improving protection. So what I really get out of this more than anything else is like, obviously this seems very, very important. I mean, I would love for anybody that has to be in harm's way, our military or otherwise, to have these types of systems that let you know where other people are in 3D space that are beyond your capacity of just seeing them visually or whatever. But you know what really gets me excited about this is the firefighting side of it, honestly, because this is starting in the military, as many technologies do. They usually trickle their way down into civil, civil services, firefighting, police, otherwise. And I look at these heads up displays, and obviously it's not exactly the same thing, but there's no doubt about it. If I'm in a fire, and I always remind people, it's not like the movies. You mostly cannot see this in front of you when you're in a fire. You hear it. It's very weird. It's a sensory overload kind of issue because you're listening for the fires. Most of the time, though, when I was crawling on my hands and knees in a building on fire, either looking for people or otherwise, either I was leading and I had my hand on a wall, or the only way that I knew I was connected is because I had my hand on the calf of the person that had their hand on the wall, because you're sweeping, right? So you can't see anything. But we do know that these new technologies, obviously heat sensors, big deal. Where in this completely blacked out space is the fire? Where are other people other than just listening for your air systems to go off or trapped? If I stopped moving as a firefighter, alarms would go off, and that would let you know that there was a down firefighter. So you can imagine how something like this can trickle its way down. Yes, for the military, it'll be proven in the military and on the battlefield, as well as other things. But then I get excited about this because I go, well, this is the technology that will ultimately make its way down and ultimately could save firefighters' lives as well as many others. So just wanted to bring that up because they are, like you said, like Palantir, they're a big name in military equipment. And I think you said it better. It's like they're sort of the boots on the ground type technology. They have a lot to do, but definitely go look them up for anybody who hasn't seen or heard about Anduril. I highly recommend you going and watching a few different clips about the founder, Palmer Luckey, as well as other people on there. Welcome to Karl. Karl, thanks for joining us. We're still kind of just going around the news. We've talked a little bit about Anduril. We talked about the story where they use ChatGPT to help arrest the guy that might be in charge, that might have started the Palisade fires. And then Andy was talking a little bit about basically jailbreaking models. There was a story about that. So do you have any news stories that you've been thinking about over the last 24 hours or so?
Well, you know what? I've been really enjoying Pulse. Specifically, so I'm trying to find one. So for those who don't know, ChatGPT Pulse. So it breaks down. You can get it to find news, but it also, what it does is it creates specific news for you. So one thing that I've been really focused on is MCPs, right? MCP adoption in businesses. And what it's been doing is it's creating potential MCP workflows based on the work that I've been doing with clients. So it would feed me, hey, here's a potential MCP workflow for job cost workflow in construction. So I got that today. And that was really cool because it's pulling from the last couple of days of work that I was doing. But what I'm trying to find is, and then it also just gave me change management lessons from enterprise deployments, right? So it had like this breakdown of Deloitte and deploying Anthropic, and then how it deployed it from a variety of sources. And so it pulled the sources together and put it in for me. So I don't know if that's like news per se, but that's just what was the one thing I wanted to mention then was I was having trouble. You know how, like, do you both use Claude MCP?
I don't currently, no. I want to, yeah, but I just have not gotten to it.
Okay. So it's hard because it's not hard. You have to open your config and then essentially just copy and paste, right? You copy and paste, you have your API key, and away you go. It's actually much faster in Claude Code because you don't have to copy anything. You're just like, I want to install this MCP. And you just copy and paste the repo, and it'll just do it for you. But in ChatGPT, it's hard because you have to have a URL to actually pull that from. And I was trying to host it locally, but it would never pull from it, so I couldn't understand. But like dumb me, I didn't put two and two together. I'm like, oh, why don't you? It came up with an MC Pulse today saying, oh, why don't you host it in GitHub and create and host your MCP config similar to how you would with Claude, and then do it that way. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. That was my breakthrough news for today. I was super excited about it because I was like, oh my gosh, I can do a lot more stuff now.
Yeah, I love your idea about Pulse which is about news. It's giving you very highly personalized and customized news, and it harkens back to the discussions we've had about whether it's better to concentrate your efforts within one model. In your case, in this example, ChatGPT, because now Pulse is another tool in your toolkit that's feeding you news and information that's relevant to advancing your ability to create solutions. And if you had been really promiscuous instead, and you'd been doing all these things in a kind of a balkanized way in different locations, it wouldn't have that ability to draw it all together. So I like that. So there's news about news and news.
Yeah. 3 or 4 layers deep there for news. Hey, listen, by the way, I think that all counts as far as news. If it's like there's news, right? The Andrew story or whatever, and there's like news, but then there's also like, this is news to me, which is what kind of I like your sort of take on that, Karl, which is like, look, I'm not saying this is like, everybody got this news, but as far as news goes, this is important to me. And it came through Pulse, which is like still relevant, right? I mean,
I really can't wait till everybody gets Pulse, because I think people are just thinking, oh, it's just gonna aggregate news for me. I'm like, no. Like, yeah, it can if you wanted to, but how it aggregates news for a very specific reason. So it's like change management. Oh, how did Claude do it? Here's 7 articles, but it's not just 7 articles. They've combined it into a specific workflow, how Claude did it, but it went out and found it and then put it in a coherent story for you on what it's. I was like, nice. Oh, that's pretty good. And then to give me MCP, like recommended MCP workflows, I was like, well, I didn't even know that you could. There's some MCP workflows. I was like, the GA4 Firewall workflow. I'm like, oh, like a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh, that I didn't even know that. That's not news. It made it up. Like, it was like, oh, you could do it this way, and then you just read through it, like, without you prompting it. So
Karl, for those of us who haven't used Pulse yet, or even I haven't even noticed it, although I've been in ChatGPT-5 thinking here repeatedly over the past several days, how do you actually turn Pulse on in ChatGPT? Is it just a Pro?
Is it only for Pro?
It's only they only put it to Pro, right? So you can't really turn it on, and that's why I'm like, I can't wait till everyone gets it. I just hope they don't brush it off like, oh, it's just a news aggregator, I don't care. It's like, no. Because it's weird because the button is curate, so it's like, oh, just curating news, but like, no, it can do a lot more because it's recommending me tasks that has nothing to do with news, just based on my interest and based on the conversations. So I was like, oh, that's something a little bit different because it's proactively doing stuff for you. And but
it's like somebody waking up in the morning, like you having an assistant. Let's say you were like at a level where you had a personal assistant, and you're like, hey, in the mornings, don't give me every newspaper on my desk. Go read the newspapers and then bring back what you think is the most relevant to what I have going on. Look at my calendar, look at what I've been talking about, and then just bring me back. And it's like, this has been going on for years. There's people who have assistants who are very busy and they're at that level and they can afford to do so. And this is bringing that same, maybe even better, right? That deeper level of understanding of like, what does Karl currently care about? And it's proactively going out and making decisions on his own to try to bring you back, like you said, not just news, but workflows, deeper understandings. I mean, it's really, really cool. And honestly, I'm glad you brought this up because I really did think Pulse was, I don't have it. So I really did think it was just a glorified news feed. So it's kind of cool to hear you say that that's not what it is at all.
Yeah, no, and that's why I'm like,
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, sorry, nothing.
This is a bit of a tangent, but Delma McConnell mentioned in the chat about the Anduril news item that you did, Brian, that
Mhm.
it sounds to her like an In-Q-Tel project. And Delma, I just wanted to tell you that in the year 2000, I was the first chief operating officer of In-Q-Tel. So
Nobody should be surprised by this. But Andy has had yet another interesting job. He's a true Renaissance man. He's the most interesting man in the world.
Apparently a dilettante. I've done too many things without any focus. Let me jump into another news item, which is I think interesting for people. You know, we've talked about edge AI and putting AI and small language models on your own device, like a phone or on your laptop, etc. Well, Microsoft's just published Edge AI for Beginners. It's a complete GitHub repository of lessons and guides to put you through the fundamentals and practical applications of putting an AI system, a model, on your edge devices, right? So you won't have to be connected to the cloud at all. And this isn't like Cloudflare's edge computing at the data center closest to you. This is really on your phone. So they've given you a how-to do that. And you can just just search for Edge AI for Beginners, and you'll find the GitHub repo for that. It's got a full curriculum. You can learn hands-on how to do this for yourself.
I love that. Microsoft has some really good, I mean, I'll credit where credit's due. So does Google, by the way. But they have some really good training programs. If you're willing to, everybody's busy, but if you're willing to put the time and effort in, they have built training systems that will help you learn these tools. In fact, some of the people that I rely on for Salesforce integrations, HubSpot integrations, other areas like Microsoft Foundry, they're self-taught. And they went on Upwork and they started with a light, a starter project at probably not a lot of money per hour just to build their portfolio. But then people like me go in and look at that portfolio and I go, well, I don't really care about certifications, right? I just it's what have you done? And then I'll look on Upwork and I'll be like, oh, look at this. The last client they worked with, they did this. And the one before that, they did this. And they're currently working on this. That's all I need to see, honestly. I want to know, have you done the work that I need to bring you in to do? And so I brought in successfully a couple people now who are doing really bespoke work. And we're going to talk about education here. So it'll be a nice little pivot, but worth bringing up.
Now I have to respond to Delma again.
Yeah.
She noted in the chat that she worked at SRD, which is Systems Research and Development. And I'll just say NORA, which is non-obvious relationship analysis, which is what that company developed, which is a very early and very effective AI system.
So you and Delma will have to figure out if you guys are cross paths, back in the day.
We were at least close.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to pull up one more news story, and then we're going to pivot here to one of our main topics because we're about 30 minutes in. But that's okay. I love this. I love starting this way because we always get to talk about the big things going on. And I do think this is a big one, so I want to make sure I get it in today. And what you're looking at on the screen is Notebook LM. Specifically, you're looking at the Mirror World Conundrum, which was the Conundrum episode I put out on Saturday. But why am I bringing this up? Well, I mean, if you don't listen to those episodes, the podcast version of what you hear ultimately comes from Notebook LM. When you hear those, I always do the live intro, but then you hear two people debating a topic. That's the last of a 3-part series. I start doing deep research inside of ChatGPT. Then I use Perplexity Pro to debate both sides of whatever conundrum I come up with. And then the last part of it is it gets dumped into Notebook LM. But that's not what I'm actually here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is that Notebook LM's video overview just got a huge upgrade because now it's using Nano Banana. So not only that, when you do the video upgrade, as you can see here, all these slides, I know you can hear it here a second, but I just want to show you what some of them look like.
Do you have this already? Do you have the ability to do the 6 templates now?
Yes, you can. I'll show that in a second. You could actually go auto, which is what I did for this one, or you can literally say do a whiteboard or if that's what you're talking about. Yes, you can do that.
Oh, because I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. I was trying to look for it yesterday when I saw this, but I'm like, oh,
In here, you're talking about, or here?
well, like because I haven't gotten that notification yet, so
Okay.
I don't have it yet. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you could do auto select. You can see here, I want an explainer video versus or
I
I
don't.
guess,
Yeah, I don't have that yet. Yeah, yeah.
okay. Yeah, this might be part of Pro here, but you can see you have classic, whiteboard, watercolor, retro print, heritage, paper craft, and anime. And then obviously down here, I can even be a little more detailed. If we click on it though, just to click through, I know there'll be some audio here because it's just auto playing, but I wanted to just show some of the different visuals. And I gotta say, it's a big upgrade. It's a big deal. I would highly recommend. I don't, this might be part of Pro. I'm using it through my scaled account. Oh yeah, it is Pro. I can see it's Pro. So I'm using it through my scaled account. So it's possible I have this before maybe everybody does, but what a difference. I mean, how many times on this show did we talk about, good slide decks, visual slide decks? And as I went through this, I was like, ooh, man, I think I need to make this part of our newsletter and make sure that it goes out, because now you're getting a whole visual that goes with it. The only thing I don't like is that this video overview is not the same. It's not synced up with the podcast, right? What I would love, and now I'm just asking for everything, but what I would love is for my audio overview here, because this is literally right here what went out as far as the episode. This is the episode minus my intro. And then you have your video overview. Well, I would love for those to sync up so that I'm getting basically the YouTube video version of the conversation versus what I'm getting here is a 6-minute summary video. Also great. May still put it up as an episode as well. So anyway, if you have Pro with Gemini and you use Notebook, I highly recommend going to check this out, because adding Nano Banana and doing that, it probably took about 10 minutes for it to run, is a really, really big deal. Okay, we're going to pivot, and I'm actually just going to leave my screen up, because the first thing that we wanted to talk about a little bit today is not that. That's Poe. That's that's Perplexity's search for Pro. This is actually Poe. Now, I only have the free account on it, but we wanted to bring Poe up, and Andy's got an example too, so I'm going to keep my side short. But I just wanted to show one thing that I think is really valuable. Now, number one, I did this on the free, but you can even see here at the top, 4% of points remaining, view details. Well, I'm surprised it even did this for me for free, but you can at least do that. But Poe is only really about $20 a month. So right in there with what a single Gemini, a single ChatGPT, a single Claude will cost you per month. The difference, and maybe Andy, you can show more of this on your side, because you were even saying before we went live, like it's almost overwhelming with what you can do. But let me just show you one thing that I think is actually pretty cool. And this is not something you can always do somewhere else. This purple here is actually what my prompt was. But what's most important are these 3 ats at the top. Basically, I was able to just pull in 3 different, let's call them agents, but they're just 3 LLM models. I pulled in Gemini's 2.5 Pro, Perplexity's Sonar Pro. If you don't know, that's the name of their models for Perplexity. And then just for, fun, I threw in DeepSeek R1 on there. And I asked one prompt: help me understand what growth challenges the company Scooter Coffee is facing given a recent explosion of small footprint drive-through coffee locations throughout the US. How do they differentiate in the market, and what would be their main marketing issues? Just something that would normally come up in my job, things that I'm researching, my clients are researching. This is a typical type of prompt that I would expect. And as you can see here, you get, if I just scroll down, we won't spend time with it. This is the Gemini answer. And then if we keep going, we have the Perplexity answer with all the cited quotes. And then after that, we have the DeepSeek answer on here. Now, obviously, you trust but verify and you read through those. But what I love is that it's not a mixture of experts, because the model was not going at a higher level and deciding which one to use. It literally gave me back the results to all 3. But just think actually how valuable that is. This is a great way for you now to be able to throw a follow-up message in there that says, given all the research you just did, meaning all 3 models, and maybe I want to use something that's going to help me create slide decks or otherwise, and I might call in a different agent for that specific role. So Poe allows you to, if we just go out to the main screen here, it allows you to do a lot and grab a lot. There's not only the assistants that they have created and sourced, but obviously the community as well. So I'll stop there because Andy, I know you have a little bit to share as well, but I just wanted to call it out because Poe's been around for a really long time, as I was saying at the top of the show. And they're certainly valuable. I mean, to have a tool like this where you're not locked into one model. I know Jude in our audience is always talking about how much can I do for free? Well, this isn't, you could obviously do some for free. But even if you just wanted to make your $20 a month and that's what you had budgeted, go as far as possible, this might be a great alternative. Okay,
Absolutely. You know, the only difference between what you just demonstrated and what GenSpark did when I demonstrated it a few, I don't know, maybe last week
ago,
was GenSpark kicked off multiple models and then synthesized the results of all those models. It used their individual outputs in an aggregation and applied yet another LLM summarization and reasoning a step on top of that. And you're just suggesting that at a much lower cost, you can use Poe, click that button that kicks off 3 different, you know, results, and then copy and paste those into one of the other models here. And that's what I want to start out with is this my screen now?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, good. Thanks. So here's they call all the models bots. These are just the models. So you can see here at the top row, this goes on and on. And you've got GPT-5 right here. You've got Claude Sonnet 4.5, GPT-5 Pro. What? I'm looking at that and going, wait, GPT-5 Codex, huh? I can use Pro and Codex here in Poe for $20 a month. And so I had to test that out. And, you know, anyway, in addition to all of these models, let me just scan over here a little bit. You've got Grok, you've got multiple versions of Grok, you've got Gemini, you've got the Qwen 3 models. Qwen 3 Max is over here farther on the right. I'm not sure how they organize this row. Here's the DeepSeek models. I've never heard of Nova Pro. GPT's open source models. This goes on and on. Kimi, this hit the news a while back. I've never played with any of these, and I don't want to go register for any of these. But in Poe, I could use any one of these on the fly. So that's what I did. I've been working on a PRD, and I said, well, wait, Codex has been designed to do feature development in the context of coding. So I'm going to give my PRD and some build specs to GPT-5 Codex in Poe and see what it does with it. So it says, okay, I've received the documents, excuse me. And I asked it, the attached files are a collection of PRDs, et cetera, that describe an application for recording user recollections of personal history. I want your evaluation and input of the features and functions. I want to get your ideas on how to simplify and enhance, And so bang, comes back from Codex, high-level appraisal. Documents articulate a compelling North Star, a self-directed, voice-first biographical agent that grows more valuable over years, anchoring around asynchronous voice capture, plus a taxonomy-aware planner is a smart way to build sustained habit and narrative depth without overwhelming the user. And then it goes on with all of this evaluation. Now, this is an example of what I typically do, which is I don't just use one model and then generate something. I pass it over to other models that I subscribe to in order to get their take on it. And then I bring these together in Google Drive and I ultimately, you know, use these in a collective way using one of the agents to generate the final result that I want. But Poe is going to make that a lot easier. And importantly, I learned just from, you nominating this as a discussion point for today. Like you can see, my prior things, my prior chats over here on the left.
Yeah, 2023.
April of 2023.
Yeah.
Okay, so I haven't touched Poe since then. And I was really pleased and surprised that I can get access to these pro level models that you don't have access to without a much higher cost right here in Poe. And by the way, I'm not subscribing to Poe. That was free.
Yeah.
So go
Same
to Poe. I'm a fan. Go to Poe.
Yeah. I love it. Look, and that's really all we wanted to share is that I was aware that Poe was still out there. And like you, Andy, I already knew coming into the show that there's going to be some fun things that people can do that they probably don't realize are available to them. But same as you, I was actually even more impressed once I actually got in there and poked around a little bit. Am I going to spend another $20 a month? I don't know, with my budget or whatever. We need to do a redo of the show where we say, what was it, $100 a month? What was our topic? If you had $100 a month,
what would you do if you had $100 a month to spend?
I think before the end of 2025, we will bring that topic back, and when we can all be here, and Karl and everybody else, you guys, like we'll take a shot at how we would spend $100 on there, because it changes, right, and it shifts. So I think it'll be really interesting. But yeah, I having access to all those different models and being able to test and retest and find out what works for you is so valuable. Which kind of brings us up to like this sort of last topic or last segment for today that I want to pivot to really quick. Jude is actually, see, now this is a big deal. Jude says he might go Poe. Now, he might just be saying that because he's saying pro instead of Poe and doing a play on words. But Jude has famously said he tries to keep things as cheap as possible as far as
not just as cheap, but zero. He's major user of AI at zero cost.
Yeah. Which is impressive. It just goes to show that you can do that. So, all right. So the last thing I want to talk about really quick is just something that's come to my attention. And I think it's just in these conversations we've had recently about the gap between what the industry needs, what society needs from AI, and where these skills are being built. I've certainly experienced this, Karl. I know you have, especially from going from working more, let's call it corporate, to doing 0 to 60, which you've now been doing for a long time. Have you had a year with 0 to 60?
We're already over 2 years now.
0 to 60 is over 2 years?
Yeah.
Jeez, man, it just shows you how fast time flies.
Yeah,
absolutely. So you've seen this, obviously, Andy, with the work you're doing, and I know you still consult as well. Like, we've all felt this. If Jyunmi or Beth or Aaron were here, they'd say the same, which is just like, man, the minute you wrap your hands around one thing, there seems to be something else that requires your attention. But it's even the job titles, and just to keep that, like to take this into account. Let's just take the idea of a prompt engineer or, somebody who is an expert in prompting. Not to say that that's not a skill that you should have, but I would be the first to say that that is a basic skill today, not a skill you necessarily get hired on. It might help you keep your job. It might, that you're able to write comprehensive prompts, you're able to put those together. I still think some of the custom GPTs I write and stuff would be above, and they're above where I would normally train them. But case in point, I have this upcoming certification course that I'm teaching for sales reps as well as sales managers. And the reason I bring it up is because I will be teaching them how to create essentially their first agent. Now, that's not something I would have even thought to show them. And I mean them collectively, because it's not something that'd be like, well, they don't, like the typical rep doesn't need to necessarily know how to do this. It's not something they probably care about. Today, I feel differently about that. Now, when I was doing the research for Perplexity on this, I'd be curious to hear what you guys say as far as like maybe what else. But Perplexity says, what's next? The rise of new roles. So listen to these 4 different roles, and you guys tell me what you think, if you think this is like a fair prediction or not. So above building agents today, and so we started at sort of prompt engineering, and now we're at building agents. This is what it says. AI workflow architects, experts who map real business processes to multi-agent AI workflows. I do a lot of agent workflows. I have some multi-agent workflows that I built for clients, but not a ton. And I know that is absolutely going to come. So that's one of them, but I'd be curious to hear what you guys say. QA testers for AI agents, validate, stress test, and confirm reliability of agents in complex environments. That is a complex job, to say the least. Ethics reviews and oversight leads ensure AI systems comply with evolving regulations and ethical norms. And finally, integration designers bridge legacy systems, APIs, and AI tools for seamless deployment. So we have AI workflow architects, QA testers for AI agents, ethics reviewers and oversight leads, and number 4 was integration designers. Thoughts on those 4 roles, or do you feel like there's 1 or 2 others on what you guys are seeing that are probably coming in the near future?
So sorry again, where are you pulling from this? Where is
Well,
this?
this was coming from Perplexity Search when I was saying, help me prepare for today's show. And I was pulling my show
Yeah.
notes together. It suggested that these are the rise of some new roles. So it's
Yep.
just literally Perplexity deep research.
Okay. The one that has the architect name into it. I think I've seen a company post that somewhere. I just
Like
I
the
can't
workflow
remember.
architect.
Yeah, so I don't think it was one of the news items where, Zapier is hiring this person. No, 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 no. It was somewhere else I saw it that it was an actual post. Oh, here it is. That's where I got it. So somebody was posting that. Somebody posted that on on Facebook, which one of my operators found, and it's like, hey, you should connect with this person. And I was like, okay, cool. So we did. And in that post is very similar to what you said about architect, where it's like, we need someone who knows how to link our business systems with AI and how do we connect it together. So I definitely think that that role is on the rise. I just don't know if the leaders we've talked to over the couple of years, if they've connected the two. I don't know if they've connected that specifically. Some companies have, but some companies haven't. And so it's more of, oh, we'll kind of figure it out ourselves because we're not sure what it actually looks like. And then to have a role like that, I've never seen. There's one company that we presented to, who then we thought turned into our competitors, who actually weren't even playing in the same space. They said, "Oh, we're hiring somebody to look over AI." So whenever we hear that, I want to see what the role actually is, and most of the time, it's IT. It's some sort of IT role or some sort of digital transformation innovation role that is IT added onto it, but not specifically how to hook our business processes, business applications, and AI together. I haven't seen that too often.
And I know you don't have it on the screen, but you're kind of putting two of these together, which is, Andy, give your thoughts too, but you're actually saying AI workflow architect, which was the first one about mapping real business problems. But that integration designer is that bottom one, like bridge legacy systems and APIs, which is kind of what you're saying as well. And they can basically go together. Andy, what are your thoughts on these or other roles?
Yeah, every one of those has a common thread, which is it's systems analysis. And the best systems analysts in the past are the ones who not only understand how the information flows and decision points within those information flows are executed by the humans in the organization and in their interactions with the systems in the stack of the information systems that are there, but they're the ones who really understand how to optimize this for the strategic objectives of the company. And that's a high level general management kind of perspective. And so I think it is possible that you're going to see people posting requirements for any one of those individual roles within them. But what you really want is somebody who really totally understands your business. What are they asking for? Oh, we want you to totally understand our industry and our business, so you know what the strategic objectives are. And we also want you to be deeply knowledgeable about AI. And we also want you to know how to do integration with existing, non-AI systems. Okay. How many people out there in the world have qualifications for that role? Yeah. Okay.
It's me.
So, yeah. Well, we're
pay me a lot of money.
Right. So where is the preparation for that? Do you teach AI to somebody who already has systems analytical perspective in your industry, or do you? It's a tough call here.
Yeah.
So and there's not very many people that are required, if you can actually find a number of them that can do those things. But I think more likely it's going to be that there's perhaps 5, 6, 7 different atomic elements to that overarching requirement that we have somebody who's got a systems analyst bent and can do that stuff. And the core of that is going to be AI supporting them, generating by exhaustive analysis of the system stack and the people and observation of those people, and generating that information flow plus decision, points diagram that describes what your business processes are, and then take that to the next level, which is, okay, how about we rethink this? What are the alternatives to the way that this is architected today?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, it's literally the struggle. It's what we're doing as we grow at scaled. I'm sure, Karl, you run into this as well. Where it went from me building everything because I was AI at scaled, and we've gotten fortunately a lot busier, and a lot of people want what we're building, which is fantastic. But like, it's beyond my ability to be the single source of that work. And I was saying this on the show where I've even had to pivot a little bit, Andy, and said, like, at least in my experience, that I did think, the AI side was the smarter play for experience. And I'm currently the flip of that. And I said this yesterday, where I think it's actually more important to have that holistic understanding of the business process, have somebody who's like AI curious, or has a brain that sort of works in an AI way. And I mean like they together and building with Legos, for lack of a better term. Because there's certain people who love doing that, and there's certain people who don't, right? Within an organization. So it's finding those kind of people. And then obviously going back to the original conversation here, how do you get them training? It is very difficult. And you could imagine if this was like, if you had to handle this at a university right now, you'd almost literally have to say, sign up for the class in the spring. Well, what's the syllabus? Well, we'll let you know when we get there. About 2 weeks out, we will release the syllabus, and the syllabus will be reflective of whatever is going on. Now, that is not the way universities work. Things take a while. These syllabus need to be, the whole thing approved and all that. And ultimately, parents aren't probably going to pay for an open-ended syllabus in that sense. But when it comes to AI, that frankly, you're going to have whole majors that are flexible enough that say, well, okay, the major title is this, and you will be at the end of your 4 years, you will have this degree, but we can't really tell you what's in that degree. All we can really tell you is that we evolve and we adapt, and we will make sure that your child with that degree is as ready as possible. Because to think that you could somehow guess what ultimately should be. And now, to your point, Andy, systems processing, project management, dealing with people, communication skills, translating AI to business processes, translating it back and forth between the two different areas, things people in IT have had to do for years now, take complex ideas and make it tangible to somebody who doesn't do IT, is tricky. And so you need that in AI as well. But I think it's something people are going to run into over and over again. And I don't necessarily have the answer, other than to say that I started 2 years ago by developing and deploying and selling prompt libraries. Nobody's looking for a prompt library today. Yeah. Nobody's really looking for like basic prompts. They're looking for what agent can you build?
Yeah, we've all of us, the three of us on the screen right now, I've gone through a journey over the last 3 years. And what's required by the clients of, the consulting that's done by 0 to 60 and by you at Scaled, is those clients need to understand that the sort of resilience and adaptability that's required to face the rapid changes in the capabilities of AI mean that the solution that they thought they were paying one time for back in the day in early 2023, what was it? A chat bot, giving access to your FAQs,
right?
That wasn't it. But importantly, had they implemented that, they would have been acculturating the team in their company to how it happens that AI suddenly has an entree into the business processes. And if one of the things that I feel really good about is that I didn't end up putting in large cost systems anywhere, because it was just always running in the back of my mind was this waiting equation. Wow, if we just wait 6 months, there's going to be something different and better. And Karl, you've had if you could map the evolution of the solutions and the sophistication of the solutions that you are now applying to your clients from back in early 2023 to today, I'd be very interested in that progression, because you guys have built systems internally at 060. I know, because you shared a few of them with us, that are really providing a much more comprehensive and understanding view of how non-determinative your consulting service is. Like, we're not going to be able to give you this one-time end game solution. That's not the way AI works in this day and age.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
It's interesting how, even though the systems have been, like, we've all seen how AI has evolved and there's new things you can do, how businesses still apply them are so to 2023. It's, for the majority, it's still 2023.
Mhm.
If you could sell them a prompting package, they would. How to build like a custom GPT or a co-pilot agent, that's what they would do. It's, yeah, the sophistication of what we could do internally versus what most businesses are doing with AI internally. It's like years. It's definitely years apart. So very, 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 very interesting. And I don't know, Brian, if you've seen that with your clients too, right? It's like, because when we rebuild or we start any discovery, the easiest solutions are just understanding even some of the basic stuff that you get, right? It's like, oh
yeah,
the simple batching.
Sometimes the answer isn't AI at all. That happens a lot.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
I had that recently where somebody asked for a solution. I said, I think you just need somebody to build you a report in Salesforce. And they were like, well, where's the AI? And I said, I don't think there is any. I think your data's a mess, and like, we'll get you the person that can help you with that, but it's not my department,
No.
And now here's the great thing. Them fixing that data does actually, help me build them better systems that are more reliable on the AI, because it can pull from that data resource. But yeah, no, we run into that all the time where they, but this is, look, I'll say this as we wrap up here, like, this is the same stories I was having when I was in the business intelligence world, or BI, back in 2017. I can't tell you, but then we would just call it machine learning, right? Nobody was really saying AI per se. They'd say, I want machine learning. This is obviously 2017, so pre-ChatGPT times. And we would ultimately look at their system and they would say, we would talk about descriptive and diagnostic and prescriptive and predictive analytics, right? And this would happen, and I've talked about this on the show, where people would basically say, we want the machine learning package, as if that was we were just dropping down. But when it really came down to it, it was like, what the company I used to work for used to do a lot was just concatenating and left justified in SQL. And not me, we had experts that did that, but that's what they did, is they helped make sense of the data they already had. It was very rarely about machine learning. It's just that was the sexy, that was the cool, that was the new, and that's what they wanted. And you would say, we would tell people, we can do that for you, but you're probably 2 years before we can start having that conversation. In the meantime, you actually do need us for the next 2 years to fix this other problem. But then we'll get to machine learning, And I find it a very similar story with AI. Is a lot of times we have to say, we love that you want this. And somebody went to a conference and got very excited. And you get them. They come back from the conference and they're like, all the things I can build. And you're like, you're right. But also, hold on a second, we have to crawl. We have to crawl, because you're not ready for that. I'm so excited that you're excited, but I have to tamper that a little bit. Try to get you some quick wins, do some fun AI stuff. But at the same time, there's a lot of, reality that has to set in sometimes that says you're just not ready to do that. Or I would be in the wrong if I built that for you, because honestly, it's not going to provide you the solution. And I would just be taking money to do consultative work. That's not, that's not the right way. So anyway, all right. Well, listen, we're on time here, so we'll wrap today up. I think the three of us are back tomorrow. Plus, we'll also have Jyunmi, who has been able to pop in on Wednesdays. I'm pretty sure Beth is back Thursday and Friday. Karl, I know you're out some of those days. So you're going to have parts of the crew popping in and out all week. And over the next couple of weeks and months, we're also going to be introducing some new folks that will be popping in and out as far as guest hosts, as we've had with Ann before. And we're going to expand that out a little bit. So lots of fun things coming for the show. Hope you guys have been liking sort of the new format. We're sort of starting with news, and then we have a couple different segments that we want to pop in. Keeps the conversation moving, a whole bunch to talk about. So we'll be doing that the rest of this week and, kind of trying it out, seeing how it fits. So thanks everybody for hanging out with us, and we will see you again tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.